Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, the season is finally here. We do have a bit of news to talk about, but that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that the season is finally here. We have predictions that we can finally make. We've been waiting. It sounds like an exaggeration, but we've literally been waiting 6 months to watch any more matches, make any more predictions. So yeah, we are going to just mainly focus on that today after talking about some news. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on the audio platforms, drop that follow, drop that 5-star review. Also, a quick shout out. I forgot to tweet something about it. I had a pretty busy weekend, but 1,200 subscribers was passed over the weekend. So that was another big milestone to pass as we head into the season. Looking forward to seeing how far we can get. Maybe set a lofty goal of approaching 2K or something this year would be a big goal by the end of the season. But 1,200 was passed, so a big shout out to all of you that subbed and helped us get there, especially because the subscribers steadily were going up throughout the offseason, and we all know how painful the CDL offseason is when it's this long. But yeah, looking forward to matches this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more, but it's going to be a rough weekend. Well, actually, maybe Brock will tell you a little bit more about his weekend coming up, but he might be able to watch matches pretty easily. But I'm going to be on a trip as well. Both of us are going on trips, so it's going to be a tough weekend for us. But nonetheless, we're very excited the season is back. So, Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, Monday, doing good. Got out of work a little early today, Love that, ready to do these predictions and, the news that we have today.
Yeah. We actually have some pretty, interesting news, like GA stuff and other things to talk about. News-wise, this wasn't the worst week. Coaches moving spots. We had one of our own in Call of Duty winning a good award. Some sad news with Challenger Opens and some casters being let go and stuff. But yeah, you and I both, I'm going on a weekend trip this weekend. So it's going to be tough for me to have any time to watch it because I'll be busy the whole weekend. You're headed out to a cruise, so you're going to be gone for the weekend and the week. So busy weekend for us.
Indeed.
And then you're on the cruise all of next week. It'll be a little solo episode for me on Monday.
Yep.
But yeah, we got a long weekend ahead of us, and including some COD on. Let's start with news though. Snaking supposedly is getting a nerf in today's update and was also GA'd, as well as sound EQ and single tap. Will they actually follow the sound EQ one? I don't know. Couldn't get them to do it last year. Thankfully, we actually have dead silence in this year, so if players are running that, they can at least counter that.
Yeah. A little easier than last year, Last year, no dead silence. So it makes it hard for the pros, sound EQ2 cheese. Yeah.
You couldn't trust people.
Yeah, cannot trust people at all, especially, for them points.
Yeah. Snaking is the big one for me, though. Sound EQ shouldn't be as big a factor with dead silence being a thing. The single tap, who knows if people will actually follow it. It's not something you can exactly check easily. But the snaking one is big to me as long as people can actually follow it. And, the nerf, I saw the nerf. It didn't look too crazy. It seemed like a small difference, but it didn't look insane. Yeah. But I will say, I know some people just snaking is part of the game, that movement. But I will say it is much more fun to watch as a spectator when there's no snaking.
Yep.
Because it's just straight up gameplay where you don't have to watch somebody just snake ahead of you for 40 seconds in search. You actually have to take chows and stuff. So the game is infinitely better without snaking. So I hope that people actually follow this GA and it stays in place, because the game, every COD has always been better without snaking. It's more fun to watch and to play, to be honest. It's just annoying to just get constantly snaked on a heady where the guy's unkillable.
Yeah, it's just, that is very frustrating indeed. Yeah, at least they're taking the steps in the right direction to nerf it as much as they can for now.
Yeah. That is a good thing. Especially because I don't know. I hope it's nerfed and GA'd both at the same time, because making it a little bit weaker like they did in today's update, or supposedly did, is a good step in the right direction, like you mentioned, but also just let's bring the integrity back to the CDL and just have people not snake. That works too.
Hold their word.
Yeah. All right, moving on to let's talk about the two negative things involving the CDL before we go to some positive things and then get into our predictions. So It's looking increasingly likely, according to a report from Jacob Hale and others, that challengers will only have 3 challenger opens max, so 3 lands max. And I thought I saw maybe only 3 stages of the elite, which they've had many more than that in the past.
Yeah.
There are also talks going on with budget cuts, which is partially the reason that Bryce and Ton may have been let go from the talent lineup this season, which is very sad because Bryce and Ton have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them both coming around in jetpacks at least, if not earlier. And
Yep.
they're very good casters. So it's sad to see them let go. It's probably a budget cut thing. They were kind of like the last casters brought on of the group. Obviously, Maven and Merc, Miles and Chance have been around a little bit longer. And then even Study and Lando before Lando had stepped away were around longer. So they were kind of, the newer ones. So they were maybe cut for that reason. But very sad because they absolutely in terms of performance wise and their casting did not deserve to be cut because they were very, very, very good.
Yep. Every year they just got better and better, and every year I like them more and more.
Yeah, and they just bring I don't know, they were just different too because they hadn't been around for so long. Like for fans that have been watching COD for a while, we knew them because they were always doing like big events. They were always at champs. Like we knew the voices, but for a lot of CDL fans, they were new voices that they didn't know.
Yep.
And they were fantastic. So it's sad. It sucks for them too because it's another 2 people that are in our scene that we care for that lose jobs. And it's kind of a sucky way that it happened. Like a week before the season, they're just told, we have to cut you because of budget cuts. Well, now, not only does it suck for them because they lose out on a job they enjoyed, but they're also just out of job randomly out of nowhere. So it sucks for them.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm sure they'll find their feet somewhere else.
Yeah, hopefully another esport will take them in because any esport would be very lucky. They're good at what they do, and I'm sure they could adapt to another FPS or whatever esport they're interested in.
Yeah, and they're definitely passionate. That's for sure.
Yeah. Then speaking on the other thing, the Challengers opens looking like 3 max, so I'm assuming this doesn't include champs. Obviously, Challenger champs would be different. So that means at 3 of the 4 majors max, they'll have Challengers events. Maybe that's part of the budget cuts as well. That's how they convinced maybe a team or something to take an event was, okay, if we don't have to pay for the Challenger space, maybe we can save a little bit of money. It's sad though, because what they've done to Challengers since the inception of the CDL is just bash them and bash them and bash them and hurt them in so many ways. And sure, in the short term, that's fine because you still have your product, your pro product, but in the long term, it's not fine because you need Challengers to actually be a place where players can show their skill and make it from, because without Challengers, at some point, the players in the league are going to retire. And if you don't have any incentive for players to ever play Challengers or want to play Challengers, then the quality of product is going to keep going down because you might not get those top tier players if there's no good Challengers ecosystem. So a little scary, but I saw somebody, like one of the head guys over at Boston, talking about how maybe they'll just have to host 2, and they've been very good to Challengers, especially with their team. So hopefully they step up and do end up hosting an extra event or something.
Yep, just sad to see, less and less each year.
Yeah, just never giving them a bone at all. It's just like Challengers is just getting beat up left and right. Where, prior to this, I don't know a ton about other esports. Like neither of us are super, super into other esports. We maybe have like our finger on the pulse a little bit of other ones, but from what I know, like especially if you go back to like 10 years ago, like the amateur scene for Call of Duty has always been one of the healthiest.
Yep.
Prior to the CDL, like you always had open brackets where amateur teams could at least make it to pool play to play pros. Our champs was a scene where 16 amateur teams would get to play with the 16 pro teams and stuff. So like Call of Duty pre-CDL had always had one of the richer scenes for amateurs to get a chance to showcase their skills against pros, and it was a lifeblood of Call of Duty, and now they're trying to kill it.
Just sad to see, hopefully next couple of years they can, revive the Challenger scene and everything else.
Yeah. So sad to see, but I'm hoping Boston does step up, although that would be very costly, and I know they would lose a lot of money on that. But
yeah.
All right. Some interesting like pop culture news that's kind of associated with COD. Hecz launched his own trading cards known as Unlock All. I don't know a ton about them. Like I saw something about this, but didn't really like read the story or see much about it. I know it's like OpTic associated trading cards, I believe, for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty positive.
Yeah, with like current OpTic creators and like pros and former pros and stuff. So interesting. We've seen something like that. I know like in the like creator influencer community, there was like a product that was released called True Creator by like a lot of NBA 2K YouTubers and guys like that. They released a product that had like sports influencers and YouTubers
Mm-hmm.
kind of in cards, and now seeing we saw recently the Call of Duty Upper Deck cards get released, and just overall more esports cards getting released. I think there's a huge market there because there's a huge market in sports cards, and I'm somewhat involved with that. I've at different times randomly here and there in my life, I've like traded and sold and done other stuff with cards like that and memorabilia. So there definitely is a market for it. It's just trying to find the footing because obviously sports cards have been around for hundreds of years, 100 years plus in the United States at least, and have been popular. So there's definitely a market there. I'm just interested to see if this one sticks because I don't know too much about it, but things that OpTic do tend to stick.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with this.
From what it looks like, really cool. Hopefully, like you said, it sticks.
Yeah, it sounds like it's sold out in like a matter of hours, which isn't surprising because it's an OpTic product. They tend to do that,
Yeah.
especially when their creators and COD players are involved.
Mm-hmm. Usually, any app thing they sell out instantly.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yep.
All right. A couple CDL topics to touch on before we move on to our pick'em. Former Seattle Surge coach Sam Phoenix has joined Vegas Legion for the upcoming season, I believe, alongside Theory.
Yep.
And from what we know, it seems like players enjoy him, and his teams have been okay at times. And people seem to respect him in general in the coaching scene. So Theory is obviously a mind that people respect, being a pro for a long time. So a little tandem there for coaching. Interesting to see that Vegas investing a little bit into their team. Usually they do the bare minimum. Now they technically have two coaches, so hey, they're investing more than they normally do.
Yep. We'll see how Vegas does this upcoming season.
Yeah,
More
I
coaches.
think
More coaches, more eyes to look at for the players. Fix their problems if they have problems.
yeah, and I think we mentioned it, and maybe we'll talk about it as we go along with our predictions. But you and I talked about it like not on the podcast, but I believe they start with 3 matches. I think they play like Rocker. I think you said Carolina, one other team, like matches that are winnable. Like, will Vegas for sure win them? Absolutely not. But like, do they have a good chance or at least a decent chance 50-50, especially early on? Sure. But then I believe they finish with our projected top 4. I think their final 4 matches in no particular order are against Toronto, Faze, OpTic, and NYSL. I could be wrong on that, but I believe I saw it. That is brutal. You start out, they could start out 2-1, 3-0, like, hey, we're feeling good. Then they play the top 4.
Yeah. So their best bet is, gonna want to start hot. Most likely,
But could be a big momentum start for them. Also, if they end up like, let's say you do start 3-0 and you're able to even take 1 off of one of the top 4 teams, you have a 4-3 split, or let's say you are able to split with the top 4 teams somehow, and you go 2-2 in those matches. It could be a really big momentum builder for them early on in the season that drives and changes their season.
Yeah, it could literally change their season outcome.
Yeah, because it could change your outlook on what you're thinking of your own season could be if you have success against the top 4 teams early. And if there's ever a time for more random teams that you aren't expecting to be really good to win matches against the teams that you expect to be really good, it's always early on when maybe like people have been talking about Ravens. They're not expected to be like a top team, but they've maybe learned the game a little faster than a lot, so they might come out to a hot start. You see that almost every year. There's at least 1 or 2 teams that you didn't expect to be very good that come out to way hotter starts.
Yep.
And they maybe, kind of fall off mid-season, but that hot start is what allows them to at least have a chance to qualify for champs.
Yeah, definitely.
And then some other good news. Hydra named to 2023 Esports Controller Player of the Year at the Esports Awards. Very well deserved. He had an absolute monster season last year, taking home 2 events and champs as well as the regular season MVP. So shout out to Hydra. Another one of our own named Esports Controller Player of the Year.
Yep. Disgusting, very deserving.
Very interested to see if he can repeat it this year. They've got an interesting weekend of matches, which is a good transition for us because New York does play on day 1, and it's a good match. Probably the premier match of the day, you would say, versus OpTic Texas. Let's get into our predictions. So, for those of you that have never watched our predictions, we kind of changed it up here and there. But what we will say is we're going to do something similar to last year. So if any of you have ever been in like pick'em leagues for the NFL, where you do confidence points, essentially it's you. If you put more points on it, you're very confident in your pick. If you put less, you're not as confident. And then you either are awarded those points when you get it right, or you lose those points when you get it wrong. So it puts some stakes into it rather than just picking wrong or right. Because let's say Brock has a perfect record this week and gets how many matches are there? 11. Brock gets all 11 matches right, and I get all 11 wrong. Or let's say I get like 4 right only. But Brock only puts 1 confidence point in everyone. He'll have 11. If I put 2 in each one, I'd actually, have a chance to have a little bit more. It's a way to catch up. Like if Brock has a really bad week and he's way ahead, and I have a really good week and put a lot of points and everything, I can catch up. So just a way to keep things more competitive as we go along. So with our picks, we're going to pick the match winner, the map score, and then either you can put 1 point on your pick or 2 points. And then each week we each get 1 pick to put 4 points on. So the one that we're feeling the most confident in. And usually the person who's losing in the standings at the time gets first dibs on their 4-point pick. But since we're obviously tied right now and haven't made any picks, we will just both be able to pick any match, even if it's the same match, for just this week alone until we have a leader next week. So sounds a little confusing, but overall it's pretty easy. You just pick your team and either choose if you want to bet 1 or 2 points on it. And then you also get 1 point if you get the correct map count right for the team. So like if this first match, Atlanta versus Boston, if I pick 3-0 Atlanta and they 3-0, I get whatever points I put on it, 1 or 2, as well as the 1 point for getting the map count correct. So let's jump into it. Pretty good first day of matches, to be honest. I feel like we get a lot of measuring stick matches. So we kick it off with Atlanta versus Boston. I feel like this is a good measuring stick match because Atlanta, you obviously figure going to be our top team, if not, one of our top 2 or 3, especially even out the gate, you still expect that. And then Boston, it's nice because they're the team that a lot of people think is like the 5th best team, just outside that top 4. So it's a good measuring stick game. Are they able to keep it competitive? Are they truly just outside the top, or are they actually better than we thought and they might be able to take them out, or are they going to look a lot worse and not be able to keep it close? Very interested to see also a slasher revenge game.
Yep, that is true. Ooh.
Yeah, very excited. So how do you want to kick it off this year? You want to go first? You want me to go first for the first match here?
I will go first for this Atlanta versus Boston match. And I believe last year Atlanta lost the first game from my memory. So
You might be right.
I'm going to pick a 3-1 Boston here. Slasher Revenge Tour.
Interesting.
And I'll put 2 points on it too.
You're gonna go full confidence.
Yep.
Interesting. Boston 3-1. If there's ever a time to pick wild matchups, it's now, because who knows? Maybe Boston's actually a better team than Faze early on. You never know. I highly doubt, by the end of Major 1, we're gonna be saying Boston's a better team than Faze. But weird things could happen this first week because we haven't seen teams. They might throw wrinkles at teams that they aren't expecting. They don't know each other as well. The game just isn't known as well by each team. So there's a little bit more randomness in it, it feels like, because, setups aren't fully ironed out and all that.
Yep.
However, with that said, I'm going to go the exact opposite of you. I'm going to go Atlanta 3-1.
Very, understandable.
And I'm going to put 2 points on that as well, just going full confidence. Try to counter you there, see if I can get a big lead on you right away. It's just hard. I'll say it every year and every time until we see differently. The trio of Faze, Simp, Abezy, Cellium, basically, analytics people, this is the most basic you can get with your stats and numbers, but Atlanta Faze has finished number 1 in the regular season standings every single year of this CDL, 4 years running. So in general, what that means is to dumb it down as dumb as you can make it. If you pick them, you're probably going to be right a lot.
Yep.
So I tend to almost pick Atlanta in every match unless it's just one I really have a feeling about and want to try to get right. Because obviously Atlanta they lose some matches here and there. They don't win every single match. But in general, if you pick them, they have the highest winning percentage in, the CDL over the course of the regular season. So you're probably going to be right a lot. And I just think that they're going to come out fast. And we've heard they look good in scrims. And Boston isn't the team I want to take a gamble on beating them. If they were playing maybe Toronto or New York, I'd take a gamble. But I'm going to go Atlanta here 3-1 with 2 points on it.
Yep, I'm going out swinging, and we get to see Snoopy, the
Yeah, and
rookie.
yeah, you get to see that young sub duo, get to see what they do. I'll be interested to watch it. It definitely is a good match, and I don't think a Boston pick is crazy either. I definitely think Boston could win it.
Yep.
This week one, anybody could win it because who knows? Like you look at a match like LAG plays two perceived top four teams. I do think that LAG is going to get smoked and they are going to be a bottom team, but you never know. Sometimes like with more toss-up matches like Carolina versus Miami, a lot of people are really high in Carolina, not as high on Miami right now. You never know. What we perceive as Carolina being a lot better just might not be true at all. And we might see these matches and realize Miami's way better, and we're going to look like idiots and think back in 3 weeks, like, how were we picking that team? They're so bad.
Mhm.
But on paper, it's tougher to tell.
Yep, definitely more randomness and all this stuff, like you said.
Yeah. Then you get to the second match. So this is why I said it's a good measuring stick day. Now it's two teams that a lot of us perceive to be towards the top of our middle group. A lot of people think they could fight for that fifth spot, that sixth spot, and like be the teams right outside that top four juggernauts we see. That's LAT versus Seattle. That is a very, very good second match. I feel like both of us have them like right next to each other in the standings too, kind of upper middle pack. And
Man,
it's a tough one to go with. I feel like something I keep wanting to say that I want to pick Seattle when I was looking at this match, but something in me is like, it's like devil and angel on my shoulder right now. Like something in me just keeps telling me to pick LAT, and I don't know why. Because I have already been on record saying I think Seattle's gonna have a really good year. So I'm gonna go Seattle, but I really do not feel good about it. For whatever reason, I really think LAT might come out and win this. I'm gonna say it's a Seattle 3-2.
okay.
I'm only gonna put 1 point on it. But I just had this weird feeling that like I think either Seattle's going to win it close or LAT might just like 3-0 them. I don't know why, and that makes no sense. But I feel like if LAT wins, just for whatever reason, it's going to be a blowout.
This is a good match. But I like both these teams, all the players.
Yeah,
Oh man,
exactly. This is a matchup of two teams I like, and I don't know how to measure them yet. So I need to see a match, but obviously that's not going to happen.
I'm going with my boy that I stuck through last year from LAG, Joe He's now on LAT. 3-2, and I'll put 1 point.
It's a valid pick. This is as toss up as it gets to me.
Yeah.
For week one, it's just like two teams that maybe some people out there, maybe you're listening to us right now and being like, really, you think that this is that close? Maybe you think LAT is a top 5 team and you think Seattle is more towards the bottom of the league, and that's fair. But for both Brock and I know we both view these teams as very close to each other in our minds right now. So for us, at least, is as toss up as it gets because we don't know how to rank them. I think we're probably juggling between 5 and 6 or 6 and 7 for these two teams.
Yeah.
So it makes it tough.
I think we're getting Kovar Cammy finally.
Yeah, I said I refuse to say that anymore.
I
know. Moving on to our final match, though. Another great game in terms of we talked about the measuring stick games. We get to see two of our previewed top 4 teams. Most people are thinking OpTic versus NYSL are two of our top 4 teams wherever you slot them in.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly haven't heard that much about how NYSL has been playing in scrims.
I have not either.
But we've heard a lot of the negatives about OpTic. People have been really talking negative about them. I'm wondering is that going to influence your pick here, you think? Do you think the talks of OpTic not looking as well are going to influence your pick into taking New York? Or are you taking OpTic, or do you just think screw the talks about the scrims, New York's just the better team?
I am gonna, not worry too much about the scrim results as much as other people are. So, I'm gonna take OpTic Texas 3-1 and I'll put 2 points on it.
Feeling confident on it, okay.
I think the boys will lock in. They got my good old buddy Kenny, good friend.
Yeah,
love that player. I don't know. He just brings like a different. I don't know what to call it. A different energy, I should say.
This is an interesting one too because we've always talked about this in the past since even before we were making a podcast and we were just like watching COD and talking about it. OpTic teams historically have always started very fast. Scump teams in general. I forget if it was from Jacob Hale or CDL Intel, or it might have been from like Brian Stats or like one of those guys, but I saw a thing about like most opening tournament wins, like major tournament wins in COD history, and Scump was leader with 5. And when I saw that, I was like, I'm not shocked, because it always seemed like OpTic and specifically Scump's teams on OpTic started so fast. They always started the year as like one of the best teams. No matter where they finished the year, they were always super good right away. So I'm interested to see if that trend continues without Scump. He seemed to be a player that learned the game really fast, and his natural talent was always just so high that as it was all really reliant on talent early, his talent level was really high, and he just played very well to start the year. I'm interested to see if that carries over and OpTic continues to be a fast starting team. I will say, though, I was essentially letting you pick first in this one because I was going to go opposite of whatever you said.
Yep.
Because I think it's such a toss-up, and I like OpTic. Their scrim results do scare me for early on. Like I said, long-term, they don't scare me at all. I think they'll figure it out. But short-term, maybe if they don't look that good right now, it scares me a little bit. And NYSL are the defending champs. I'm going to take NYSL 3-1, and I'm only going to put 1 point on it because I don't feel confident in that. But OpTic's short-term view with how they've looked scares me a little bit. Still not scared for the long term, but the short term scares me. So I'm gonna go New York and play it safe.
Yep. All right. Don't bet against the champs. Which I'm doing.
And New York is learning a new player as well, though. It's hard to remember that because they're the defending champs. You just think they're running it back, but they are learning to play with a new player as well.
Yep. So they might have some difficulties in the first couple matches.
All right. Then we get to day 2. A lot more of the middle of the pack teams trying to sort it out here. And our first match, we get Carolina versus Miami, the Heretics debut. And, technically 2 debuts. I mean, Royal Ravens aren't new, but Carolina, Royal Ravens, first match from Carolina and the first match of Heretics. I lean towards Carolina in this one just because of, they're kind of like the darling so far of the scrim time of year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lean them 3-2 and only put 1 point on it. But I do think that, I think a lot of people are going to be on Carolina in this one because they have, like I said, been the scrim darling. People have been talking so much about just how much they like this team, how good they look. And, we haven't heard too much from Miami. They've already made a roster change in the preseason, so it seems like kind of a mess. But I will say, I don't feel good about this pick, which is why I only put 1 point on it. I think there's big time upset potential for Heretics in this one.
There may be upset potential, but I am going Carolina as well. 3-2.
You going the same as me, 1 point or 2?
I'll do 1 point because, like you said, the unknown of Heretics just scared me they could come out 3-0. Like it's nothing against Carolina.
Yeah. It just feels like a week in general to just put low confidence points on things because, like we said, we don't know what's going to go on with these teams. Like Carolina looks super good in scrims apparently, and people really like them and like that roster. Who knows? Maybe they're going to go 0-2 this weekend. Doesn't seem like it because they're playing Miami and Vegas. Seems like 2 matches that are winnable, and they should at least be able to split that. But you just never know early on. Scrim results can only tell you so much. The real matches are where things happen.
Yeah.
Moving on to Las Vegas versus Minnesota. Interesting matchup here because Minnesota obviously is like the Seattle Surge, the diet version, like we talked about.
Yep.
And Vegas, has high hopes for their roster in terms of normal hopes for the Legion. I feel like this is some of the higher hopes that people have had for one of their rosters to start a season in quite some time. I'm curious. I'll let you go first in this one. I'm curious where you're going to go with it because it is a tough one to predict for me.
Yeah, these two are pretty close. So I will do a 3-2, leaning the Vegas Legion's way, and I'll put 2 points on it as well. Just think, attaching the boys, they get it done. First match.
Actually, I don't mind that at all. Once again, tough match to predict here. I actually wanted to go Minnesota. I don't know. I really think that Linz and Vivid and Awakening are gonna early in the year be a really, really formidable slaying duo, and I think Lamar is going to be directing the troops. I think early on, I think this team has potential to start hot and respawn. Like we talked about earlier, there's some random teams that start really hot and are beating teams that you don't believe are at their level. Like you think those teams are better than them, but they just beat them. I think Minnesota has potential to be one of those teams because I think they have shooters. I think Vivid, Linz, Awakening could really get it going and, make this team a really good hardpoint team off the rip, and that's going to lead them to win some series. I'm going to go Minnesota in a 3-1 fashion. mostly because I don't like them in a game 5. I think Vegas would take them out. So I'm going to go 3-1 Minnesota. I'm going to put 200 as well. I'm going to try to gain some points on you here. But I don't know. I just like this Minnesota team to be one of those teams that could come out hot to start the season.
Yep. Sounds good. I like it.
All right, Brock. Next match is your team. Your boys.
Yes.
Not really your boys anymore because they're missing, Arcitys, but you
Missing the boy.
you do own an LAG jersey.
I do.
You were wearing around champs last year, and it feels like everybody was double taking when they saw you in it because they were like, LAG hasn't been relevant for champs since Major 2.
Mm-hmm. I only saw one other person with the LAG jersey on.
Yeah. So funny stuff there, but I mean, we'll have to figure out who's going to be your new gimmick team this year that you just ride or die with. Will it still be LAG? We don't know. I feel like we'll figure that out as we see matches.
I think I'll have to figure out like after week 1 while I'm watching.
Yeah. When you're going to figure out what teams really suck and which team you got to ride with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That way you can say you've been with them the whole time.
Yep. I can see their come up.
I mean, this match though feels like the prime candidate for putting your 4-point play on.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I'm trying to look at like day 1. It's tough. I actually thought about maybe Atlanta just because they're Atlanta, and then the day 2 or day 3 matches. I mean, I see one that feels like it could be. It's spoiler alert. It's the LAG match again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going 3-0 Toronto with 2 points or 4 points on this one over LAG. I actually don't know if it'll be a 3-0. You just never know. In these early ones, matches could be closer than you think. We also don't know how Control plays, how 50-50 it could be this year and stuff. So I'm going to go 3-0 Toronto because I also haven't picked a 3-0, and I'm putting my 4-point play on this one.
You read my mind. Literally. Perfect candidate for the 4 points. Toronto finished second last year. Just got a upgraded dirty work player and who can slay. So 4 points it is.
Yeah, I mean we're looking at this team as the like you said, the runner-ups, and we feel like they upgraded their roster playing against what the consensus, what people would say is probably our 12th team. So obvious candidate for your 4 points now. I can't wait till LAG 3-0s them or something and we're wrong, but either way, I still would feel good about this pick even if LAG wins because it seems like the most obvious pick to really go all in on.
It seems too obvious for it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, then the final match of Saturday is another, I'm
pretty good.
There are certain matches, like the rest of this day, I'm not, I guess I am intrigued. The first week you're intrigued by almost every match just because you want to see all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
But this last match on Saturday, Seattle versus Boston, Seattle has a really fun week. They get to play LAT and Boston, which to me, those 3 teams, just based on where we predicted, to me, those are teams 5, 6, and 7.
Yep.
And Seattle gets to play the other 2 in that grouping that are to me the next 3 after the top 4. So if Seattle could come out of this week 2-0, you'd feel very good about their prospects to be the 5th team.
Yeah.
However, I'm gonna say they're not gonna do that because I felt already really weird picking them against LAT.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go Boston. I think this is another close match though. I'm gonna say it's a 3-2. I'm only gonna put 1 point on it because it still really scares me. And like I said, I have a lot of faith in Seattle, but just because I think Seattle overall at the end of the year is gonna finish ahead of Boston doesn't mean I think they're gonna beat them early on. Might take a little bit of a learning curve. Although it feels really weird to do that because I do have such faith in this Seattle team. But I'm going to go Boston 3-2 and put 1 point on it.
Man, that's a good matchup. Dang.
It is really good.
I will take 3-2 Seattle and put 2 points on it. I think, RCD, Abezy and the boys who can really, S&D, stars potentially. Or so-called, get it done. But it's going to be close because these 2 teams are, like you said, really close together from what on paper it looks like.
On paper, these teams feel very close. And you do make a good point, though. When it comes down to search, I would agree with you. I know I picked Boston 3-2, but you're making me question myself even more than I already was. I'm going to stick with it. I already said it, but you do make a good point. If you were on paper to say these 2 teams go head-to-head, who do you like in search? I definitely like Seattle more in search. I like Hook in search. I like Illy in search. And I think, we don't know too much about Abezy, but Arcitys in the past has been a pretty good search and destroy player from time to time. I think this team has the better search team in general, but slasher teams tend to be pretty good at search and destroy as well.
Yeah, they tend to be really good at first bloods.
And in general, like when you and I are picking a game 5 and we're like, we're going to go with this team because they're a better search team. Sure, that does work a lot of times, but just because somebody is the better search team doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win a map 5 every time, obviously.
Yeah.
But I went with Boston 3-2. I feel this is, of all the matches we picked so far, this is maybe the shakiest I feel on one of them picking it.
All I know is it's going to play out, hopefully, like it is 3-2, close, hopefully around 11.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
I'm hoping to see some 3-2s this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Better than 3-0s.
See who clutches up, which is 1v3, 1v2s, 1v4s potentially in search.
Oh, I hope we see a 1v4 weekend 1.
That'll be good.
All right, Sunday. Vegas versus Carolina. Usually London versus Legion used to be like the toilet bowl, but this year we're intrigued by both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas versus Carolina. Where do you lead on this one? Because this is the community's darling in Carolina. People think they're going to be a pretty good team right now. And then Vegas, which on paper we think, in comparison to what we normally think of Vegas right away in the year, Standy, Nero, Attach, Purge, like they have a young gun that we like, a veteran that we like, and a SMG duo that we think is formidable. Like where do we go with this one? Are you think Vegas is able to take them out, or do you think Carolina, according to your other prediction, finishes the week 2-0?
I think Vegas pulls this one out in a game 5. Really close match though. I'll put 1 point on it because honestly it could go both ways.
Yeah, this is tough for me. What are you going to say?
I said, and it's Attach versus Clayster, old teammates.
Mm-hmm. The vets going at it.
Yep.
This one is tough for me because I did pick Vegas to lose their earlier match against Minnesota in a 3-1 fashion. I picked Carolina to win their other one. So by picking Carolina to win this, I would say they're 2-0 at the end of the weekend, which I think is Carolina plays Miami and Vegas. It's very doable and very realistic that they could be 2-0 at the end of the weekend. But also Vegas has a very real chance to be 2-0 as well. They play Minnesota and Carolina. Those are like 2 beatable teams, you would think. Unless one of them really shocks us and is super, super good early on. And we also know with their upcoming schedule, as we mentioned earlier, Vegas really needs. They really need to get these wins on the board before they have their brutal stretch in the Final Four of this split. So I think Vegas is going to get it done. I think maybe Carolina is unable to do so and unable to get to 2-0 week. I say Vegas gets it done 3-1 though. I'm going to go a little different. I think Vegas is going to drop the control. And I'm going to put just 1 point on it, but I think Vegas drops the control, wins 2 hard points in a search.
I like it.
All right, then we get another just wonderful matchup. The second matchup of the day: NYSL versus LAG.
First,
a little bit of a rough one. Probably the other potential choice for your 4 points to go on, because LAG is a team that we view as probably a bottom 1 or 2 team, and NYSL is a team that we view as probably a top 4 team for sure.
Yeah. I hope LAG shocks us, but I think we both know what's gonna happen here in our picks.
Yeah, I actually am gonna go 3-1 though. I'm gonna go say NYSL gets a 3-1, and I'm gonna put 2 points on it just because I feel like LAG. Hopefully, I hope for their sake they don't go 0-6 map count. But with the 2 teams they're playing, it's possible. I'm gonna say that LAG sneaks out. Either map 1 or 2. I think they're going to either come out and win the opening hardpoint somehow or win the search, and then they'll lose 3-1. But I think they're going to win one of the first 2 maps.
All right. I like it. I'm just going to go 3-0 and put 2 points on it. Even if an LG are playing, pretty good, I think just the firepower from NYSL, even if they don't play the most correct and stuff, outgun them,
Yeah, it's probably the safest and most fair pick there. Clearly the better team on paper, and I would be shocked if LAG wins it. I just gave them a map because I was like, I kind of felt bad making them 0-6 in the first weekend, but it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, would be tough if they went 0-6, but
yeah,
that's how life is sometimes.
Yeah, I would say this final day has the biggest discrepancy in where we believe teams stand. On average, like the first day, Atlanta versus Boston, is maybe a top 4 team versus team just outside. LAT versus Seattle, we kind of think they're in the same general area. And then NYSL and OpTic, we think are in the same general area. That day 2, same thing. Carolina, Miami, maybe same area. Vegas and Minnesota. Seattle and Boston, same area. Obviously, that third match a little different with Toronto, LAG. But today, Vegas and Carolina maybe in the same area. Big difference between NYSL and LAG. Probably a big difference between Atlanta and LAT, and probably a difference between Texas and Minnesota. So maybe the least interesting day of matches, but we say that now and it could be completely opposite because, like we said a bunch of times, it's week 1. Maybe these are actually the best, most close matchups. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you leaning for LAT versus Faze, though? You think Faze is going to finish the week 0-2? Because if you pick LAT, you're saying Faze starts 0-2.
I do not. I mean, this is tough, but I'm going to go with Atlanta 3-1 and 1 point. I do think LAT is going to win the opening hard point, and then the Atlanta's going to rattle off 3 straight after that.
Okay. I like it. I think the same thing. Exactly.
Yep.
I was actually going to say, I think LAT is going to win the opening hard point, and Atlanta is going to wrap it up 3 straight. And I think Atlanta is going to, I don't know why. I don't know like anything about control in this game besides people have said it plays horrible. I think Atlanta's going to smoke them in the control to go up 2-1, and then they're just going to take that momentum and beat them like a 250 to like 130. Kind of a blowout in the 4th hard point. I think it's going to be like a LAT wins a close map 1. The search is really close, but goes like 10 or 11 rounds and goes Atlanta's way. And then LAT kind of regrets not being able to close out and go up 2-0, gets smoked in the control, and then smoked in the final hard point, loses 3-1. I'm going to put 2 points on Atlanta doing that. But I think LAT has a chance to pull off an upset because, it's always early on in the year where you can, catch these top teams or supposed top teams off guard. And I think LAT has a chance because I still do like this LAT squad. I think they're a pretty good team. Yep. Even though I have them going 0-2 on the week, I still think that they're a pretty good team. They just got a tough draw. I think Seattle's a good team, and obviously FaZe is always a good team.
Yep. Pretty good team. I just don't think, they'll be the number 1 consensus team every year. Atlanta.
No. Then our final match, Brock, is OpTic rounding out the day on Sunday against Rocker. Interesting trap match for OpTic because, like I said, I believe that Minnesota is a team that could come out very fast on the season and could give teams problems. And it's no different with OpTic, especially because we've heard OpTic maybe hasn't looked the best, so they could give them a lot of problems. However, I think OpTic closes this one out. I think they're going to do it in a 3-2 fashion, though. I'm going to put 2 points in this one as well. I think OpTic closes this one out. I don't see OpTic going 0-2, although NYSL and Minnesota are both teams that I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if they lost to. So I'm going OpTic 3-2 and putting 2 points on it, but it certainly is an interesting match to watch because, like it's been well noted, OpTic struggling in scrims, and I like I said, I think personally, based on just like no knowledge other than looking at the roster and just feeling something about this team, I think Minnesota might be a hot respawn team to start the year, and that could give OpTic troubles.
I like it. Accuracy's back with Minnesota. Last time that happened, wasn't it the lineup for Accuracy?
It was in on Moscow for OpTic. I forgot about that.
Oh, the only one standing, left from that team is Dashy. Might be a little shaken at the start, but
Oh, your OpTic fans aren't gonna like that one.
Yeah, but I'm picking OpTic to still win. They just have the superior firepower, I believe. I'm gonna go with a 3-1, and Minnesota can have that control. Because control is iffy, like always usually.
Yeah, especially early in the year, it's usually such a weird game mode.
And I'll put 2 points on it.
All right. So that pretty much wraps up our picks. Kind of going over it though, to be honest with you, for a week 1, I like where we're at because we actually had a decent amount of picks go the other way. For we had different map counts for a lot of them. We even had a lot. On day 1, we disagreed on every match.
Yep.
On day 2, we split them. We had 2 matches we disagreed on and 2 that we picked the same teams. And then on the final day, we picked the same team for each one. But like I said, it would seem to be the most lopsided matchups overall. But that's not common because a lot of times it's tough to pick week 1. It's usually just a lot of like, this team looks better on paper, I'll take them to be safe, and then we'll figure out where they are after that. But hey, you know what? We picked somewhat similar.
Yeah.
But overall, for a week 1, there are enough different picks. Although I guess sometimes towards the end of the year, it gets very similar too, because you got teams that like a really good team playing a really bad team, and it's like, well, I'm not picking the terrible team. Unless it was you last year, just picking LAG every week.
Yeah, every week I'd pick LAG, they'd lose, but then I wouldn't pick them, they'd win.
I remember doing the math, and it was like something like I ended up winning the overall predictions in the year, but like I don't know if it would have fully changed it, but you would have been like right there, really close, if not winning, if you would have just like changed every LAG pick you had and flipped it the opposite way. Because you
Yeah.
lost like all your points lost were like damn near off LAG. You lost so many points off picking them.
Yeah, I just thought, after a certain time they would get better, and it just didn't happen.
And then at that point, you were just too invested and too deep in the joke that you were just picking them every time.
Yep. I thought RCD and the boys would, pull through for me, but they never did.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. And I don't know if LAG's ever going to pull through for you this year either.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. But hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, that would make the league more fun if the perceived, worst team ended up actually being okay. Makes the league a little more interesting.
Yeah, definitely does.
All right. You got anything else before we wrap this one up?
No, just excited, get these matches finally started after what you said, like 6 months of off season?
6, yeah, June was champs. I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit shorter than that because champs is the middle of the month, but June to December, regardless of what days it is, basically 6 months.
Excited to get back in action, watch some matches, and see how the players do.
I'm just excited to have just the more natural content ready for us because it is a desert out there. The first like month of the offseason isn't too bad because you have roster rumors and stuff. And then like the final month leading up to the season isn't too bad because usually the game's out and you have like scrims and random news and stuff to talk about. But that in between period from like August to October, even most of July, let's be honest, most of July through like October into like when the game came out is just brutal. Like there's no news going on. Nobody's playing Call of Duty in general. It is a brutal time, especially for the competitive scene. So we're very excited, I know, just to have the ease of like, hey, there's matches on. Let's talk about some matches. We'll make obviously other little content pieces here and there for the podcast, but in general, the meat of the podcast is always going to be talking matches, talking predictions, talking about the happenings in the CDL. And it's a little bit easier to talk about the happenings in the CDL when the season is active and not in the middle of month 4 of the off season.
Yep, really is.
So excited for that. But I'm ready to wrap this one up and get you guys out of here and hear your predictions.
Yep. I'm ready.
So if you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We once again appreciate you for helping us hit 1,200 subs. Pretty great milestone. Looking forward to continuing to see that number go up and up as the season goes on here and you guys continue to join us. We appreciate you. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. Drop your predictions down below. I want to see them because if there's any week where we're going to be way different, it might be this week, with you may have a strong opinion about one team that we don't have faith in, and we got to find out who's right. So drop your predictions down below. I would love to see them and love to see how you guys do because last year, Brock and I were close. I think I maybe ended up winning like 4 of the 5 majors, or at least 3 for sure, because I know I had the majority, but then I had that one major where like I damn near went perfect. So I'm curious to see if Brock can get his revenge this year and overtake me. But yeah, that's going to do it. Excited to watch matches. I hope you guys enjoy watching them. And who knows, we might be watching them on YouTube, Twitch, or both. They still haven't technically officially said. So that's going to do it for this one. And we will see you guys next week with some reactions to the matches.